time, Coach, and doing this with us. The main staff has been awesome. You guys have been great.
Yeah, we got a good staff. So I'm pretty pumped up that, you guys are giving me the platform to do this. And before I go into this, I just want to say, if I'm doing this for you guys, if you have any questions, if something I'm saying isn't making sense and you want me to repeat it in a different way, please unmute, turn your video on, and we'll talk about it. Because I'm doing this for you, so I want you to be able to learn to tell your players about it. So do I have to hit I have to do some screen share, right?
Yeah, if you hit share screen, the green button on the bottom. Yep.
You guys see this?
Yeah, we got it.
Great. So before I go into this, I'll go into a little bit about myself. I said this earlier, but I was recruited to come up and play for the University of Maine as a punter and kicker in 2013 from right outside Boston. I graduated in 2018 with my physical education degree, and now I'm about to finish my master's in educational leadership tomorrow. So Coach Charlton asked me to come back and coach this year. It's been pretty unbelievable to be able to have my own room at the Division I level at 25 years old. It's been amazing. And I would say we have one of the largest specialist group in the nation. We had 9 specialists this year, which was huge. So let's get into this. Before I go into this real fast, I want to explain about how this clinic is going to work. How I'm going to do this is we're going to go over each skill, and I'll go over the mechanics into the skill. And then at the end, we'll do a video breakdown of the skill using our guys. And I'll kind of give you guys a visual of what I'm looking for when I'm watching kicking and punting. Therefore, you can bring it back to your guys. But I'll repeat myself one more time. If you guys, I'm doing this for you. So if there's any questions, please feel free to unmute, turn your video on, and let's have a conversation about it. So Coach Charlton talks about having a championship mentality. Now, what does this mean? How can this group win the day? Now, this is for cornerbacks, quarterbacks, running backs, kickers. What can we do to put ourselves in the best position to win the day? Now, what we're talking about when we're saying win the day, we're talking about eating-wise, sleeping-wise, football-wise. What are we going to do? So that's something we always ask our players so they know that.
You ain't nothing but a broke boy, broke motherfucker.
So we'll talk. The next part is we'll talk about is on-field success. So when you have already put yourself in that situation, you're going to be able to be successful on the field. I always tell my guys at the end of practice before they go to bed that night, when they put their phones down, put yourself in the situation. Visualize the fans. Visualize your team on the sideline. Visualize the 11 guys or 10 guys in front of you. Visualize yourself making that kick, making that perfect snap. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Mental success is going to equal on-field success. With punting, with specialists, with anything in general, you can never be too high, never be too low. When you go out there and make a 45-yard field goal and you're pretty jacked up, you got to bring it right back down. All right, you got to stay right even keeled every single time. If you go back out there and you don't hit a punt the way that you want to, cannot stay down. It's going to affect the next punt. It's going to affect the next punt after that. You got to stay right in the middle. It's a very hard thing to do. The last thing I want to talk about is a quote. This is a quote my dad taught me when I was very young. It's when luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Personally, I don't believe in luck. I think you put the practice in beforehand, and when you go out, you perform. You're given an opportunity to be successful. So whether you put the time in before, the effort, the mental, the visualization, you put the time in before, therefore when you're given an opportunity, you can be successful. So that's when we talk about a championship mentality, that's what we mean. So we're going to punting first. With a stance, you want to start in an athletic stance about your feet shoulder width apart. And I'm gonna talk about this real fast. When I talk about punting, field goals, kickoffs, I'm gonna talk about a right-footed punter the whole time. So I don't want you guys to get confused. If you have a left-footed punter, it's completely opposite of what I'm saying. So just know that. So start an athletic stance. You want your knees a little slightly bent, shoulder width apart. Your plant foot is going to be slightly in front of your kicking foot. All right? But we want to be in an athletic stance. Therefore, if it's an errant snap, you can get your body in front of it, chest in front of it, and catch the ball. The most common grip is the handshake grip. As you can see right here in this picture, we're going to have a handshake grip. And if you have the clock in front of you, the nose of the ball should be pointed at 11 o'clock or 11:30. That's something that we in high school, we see a lot of punters just at 12 o'clock. If you move the ball slightly into 11:30, the nose of the ball, you're going to expose the sweet spot of the ball, and you're going to be able to make better ball contact. And that's something we're going to talk about a little later. So with our steps, once you've caught the ball, you're going to take your first step. It's a short step to get your feet under you. All right? When you're taking your steps for a punt, they're not monster steps. They're not really short steps. We talk about being natural with our steps. So we want our feet under us, and your first step is just get your feet under you and get some body control. After the first step, you'll go into your second step. It's going to cover more ground. And when you're taking your second step, you are going to simultaneously, I don't know if you guys can see me. I can't see myself right here. But when you guys are taking the second step, your left hand is going to simultaneously move off the ball. All right, and we're going to talk about this in 2 seconds. So this is the first step right here, if you guys see this picture. So body is under control, chest is in front, and we have the ball right out front, hand is on. Your second step, the hand is simultaneously coming off the ball, chest over. And we're going to talk about the glass table. This is something that's extremely important with punting. If you have a first-year high school punter, when they catch the ball is going to be moving all around. We want to talk about the ball staying on a glass table. So as you can see right here in this first picture, it's about belly button height. We want to be sliding that ball right on the glass table. We don't want to break the glass table. We're going to break the glass table if we move the ball up or move the ball down. Another part of the punt is that your arm is not as long as your leg. So if we just drop the ball, then we're not going to have good ball contact because it's going to hit off our leg. So what you have to do, if you guys look at me real fast, so we're going to do something called a love push. So my hand is right here. My arm, when I'm holding the ball, is right here. Right? Notice how I'm not straight. I'm a little bent. And this is what the love push is going to consist of. This. We're not throwing the ball out. It's a love push. Nice, calm, under control. So ball contact is obviously very critical to the success of the punt. If the drop's not good, you're not going to be able to make ball contact. Same thing when you're driving, when you're playing basketball, when you're playing baseball. If you're playing baseball and you're up at the plate, right, and you make contact with the ball, the bat's not going to stop, right? You got to keep driving your leg up through the ball, and you're able to follow through. Now, something that I want to make extremely clear. A lot of coaches try having punters explode up. I don't want punters to explode up. The ball will go up, but the distance will not be there. I want the punter to go through the ball. So I want you to explode through the ball. When you're following through, go through. So when I say go through, I mean go forward. Okay? Not going up, we're going through. Now let's talk about a few different game situations. In Maine, you never know what's going to happen with the weather, right? If the wind is against you and you're the punter, we want to lower the drop table. So we're lowering our glass table. The reason why we're doing that is because it's less time for the wind to affect when I drop the ball to when I hit the ball. All right. Now, lowering the drop table is also going to equal a lower punt, but it's going to be more of a line drive punt. Now, if you're trying to add hang time, if you have a punter that's trying to maybe pin the other team, you want to raise the drop table, all right, and then it's going to add hang time and allow your gunners and allow your team to go down and make a play. Now, something to keep in mind is that when you drop when you move up the drop table, punters are more likely to explode up. We still want to drive through the ball. You're going to still get that added hang time. Our perfect punt would be something called a turnover ball. So what a turnover ball is when you punt the ball, The ball is going to go up, and it's going to be spiral. At the apex, at the top of the punt, it's the nose of the ball is going to turn over and then flutter down. The reason why we want it to flutter down is because it's going to add hang time and allow your team to go down and cover the ball. So here's some drills that your guys can do at practice, before games, when they're off, in their spare time, doesn't matter. So line drops. So you could do this on a soccer field, baseball field, football field, wherever. All you need is a line. You're pretending that you have a ball, and you're going through the whole motion. You're simulating the snap out in front of you, step one, step two, off. You're going to pretend to drop the ball, and you're going to pretend to drive through the ball. You could do those all day. So you could have your punter do that all day at practice. Now, one thing I wouldn't have your punter do all day at practice is punt, right? Same thing with a major league pitcher. You wouldn't have them throw all time, all right? So the one-step drill is we're going to break down the punting motion. So the one-step drill is going to simulate our last step of our punt. So how we talked about at the beginning, when you receive the ball, your plant foot is in front of your kicking foot. When we do our one-step drill, our kicking foot is going to be in front of our plant foot. We're going to have our two hands on the ball, and we're going to simulate the last step of our punt, where we're going to move our hand out, and you're going to punt the ball, and you're going to drive through it. All right, this is really good working on your follow-through and being able to drive through downfield. Explosion drill is the same thing as the line drill, and you're just trying to drop the ball on the line and explode through it. So you're not actually making contact with the ball. You're catching the ball, 1, 2, you're dropping it off to the side, but you're exploding through. So you're not making contact, but you're dropping the ball, and you're not kicking it, but you're going through the ball. Something that I always tell my guys is you want to be small, tall, drive the ball. It's a little rhyme. But you want to stay small with your steps. And when I say small, I want you to be natural. I just don't want you to be big. You want to stay tall. You don't want to be crunched over. And you want to drive the ball forward. So here's a little film review. This is our starting punter this year, Derek. So notice he's in an athletic position, plant foot in front of the kicking foot, catches the ball out in front of him, eyes on. The reason why we don't want to cradle the ball in when we catch it, same thing when you do an egg toss, you know how you cradle the ball in? We don't want to do that. Everything is about time. You want to get the ball out as fast as possible, and you want to punt it as fast as possible. If we bring it in, we're wasting time. You want to catch it out in front, flip the laces and get it up, put the nose of the ball at 11 o'clock, and do your punt. So we're
Excuse
here.
me, Coach.
Yep.
Is there a reason why the punter's only 7 yards in depth
What do you mean 7 yards in depth?
from the center?
So he wants to be 14. That's how we do it.
Okay.
Right? Oh, is it right here? Is that what you're looking at?
Yes, sir.
So this is our shield.
Okay.
So our shield is heels are at 4 yards away from the punter. So he's heels at 4. So the shield's right here. The snapper is all the way over here.
Gotcha.
So he's 14 yards away.
Thank you.
Yep. Guys, if you guys have any questions, if it's not making sense, definitely ask. Thank you for the question. So we'll keep going with this. Talked about the catch. Notice how when he has the ball, it's about belly button height. Steps are under control. Makes contact and goes through the ball. Notice how he fell back a little bit. That's something that we worked on with Derek throughout the season. We want to keep going forward.
Hey, Coach, is he dropping the ball to 11?
Yes, he is. Yeah, and actually, Derek, he drops the ball really 10-30. So if when you are more technological, when your mechanics are on point, you can get away with 10-30. But he's dropping the ball at 10-30. Yes, sir. Let me try to catch it right when it's. So notice right there, the ball's coming in a little bit. That's what I mean about the nose. The nose is obviously not pointing forward. It's off to the side. Goes right up and through the ball. So this is our first year punter, guys. You're going to hear about him in the future. He is a leg on him. But watch, the one thing I want you to watch with him, and one thing I didn't mention before, is when you make contact with the ball, you want your foot pointed. Now, you don't want your foot pointed to the sky. All right, that's a no-go. You want your foot pointed out to make a flat surface so you can go right up through. With him, we got to work on keep going through the ball, but his flexibility is very good. So the catch out, flips the ball around. Now his is coming down a little bit. That's not something that we really want, but still turned in, which is good. And you'll see, this is what I like to see right here. Look at chest up. He's not over the ball. All right, you're going to be leaning back a little bit when you're punting. Look at the toe is pretty straight as he's going right up through it. We watch that again real fast. Catch, one, hit. You guys have any questions on punting? All right, so we'll move now to kickoffs. Kickoffs are one of the most explosive plays in the chat. So we had a question here. I've always taught
Can you see that, Coach?
What'd you say?
Can you see the question?
Yeah, I saw
Okay.
a little icon pop up. So they're both valid. The question is I think you guys can all see it, but you also can hold the ball under. The reason why I like the handshake is because it gives you a little more grip, and I used it when I punted at Maine, so that's why I teach it. I think it gives you a little more grip, a little more control with the ball. One thing that I would not suggest is holding the ball like this, palming the ball coming down. You're not going to be able to get the push off, but holding it under is a valid way to hold the ball as well.
Hey, Coach, have you ever messed around with rugby punt at all?
Absolutely, it's my favorite thing to do.
Could you go over that technique a little bit?
Yeah, I don't have anything written up on that, but I can just speak to it if that's something you like.
Yeah, that would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. So rugby punting is something that is near and dear to my heart. I love the rugby punting, but it's good for many reasons. When you have a pro-style punt, you're always going to have a block spot. The team knows where your opposing team is always going to know where that block spot is. In our punt, it's the inside hip or the middle shield. You can watch that on film. With rugby-style punting, there is no block spot, so teams have to prep for that. Now, with rugby punting also, you can go with a regular rugby punt or a line drive rugby punt. And that's going to change depending on your scheme. Now, if you want a rugby punt, so we're all on the same page, is when you catch the ball and you're running out, either you do a 5-step or a 7-step rugby punt. I've always felt it more, you have to be natural with it, but you want to be under control with the ball. Now, the main rule with rugby punting is you never want to drop the ball inside. If you drop the ball inside, so you really got to work on getting the ball outside, but if you drop the ball inside, you're going to shank it all the way to the left. So you want to keep it right over your leg or a little bit outside. So that way, when you make contact, if you hit it on the outside, it's still going to go to the right. It's still going to go far. But if you drop it on the inside, you're playing a dangerous game there. But the reason why...
Coach, just to interrupt you for a second, that's been one of the problems, I think, with our guy is he's a lefty, and, so he's moving to his left, but whenever he kicks it, it always seems to go way to the right.
Yep. So one thing that a lot of guys do is I can promise you he has an inside drop. And the inside drop is what I just talked about. He's coming over.
Awesome.
His hips are also extremely important when you do that. You have to understand that if you have an inside drop, and I'll go with a righty punter, if I have an inside drop, I'm going to stand up here, guys, so you guys can see. If I have an inside drop here, if I drop the ball, naturally my leg's going to come to the inside, and my hips are going to change to the inside. So where do we think the ball's going to go? It's going to go over here. That's why your hips have to stay close to the sideline or the hash, and you have to follow through straight with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
So, yeah, the biggest thing with a rugby punt is keeping the ball over your leg, because you're playing a dangerous game. Because you have to understand that if you drop the ball inside, your hips are going to go inside, Your foot's going to go inside, your chest is going to go inside, and the ball's going to go over there. How's that with the rugby punt breakdown?
That's good. What's the difference between the line drive and then just kind of the regular rugby punt?
The line drive is something that a lot of colleges are trying out more, because if you have a line drive that maybe goes 10 yards, 15 yards in the air, and it's you don't know where it's bouncing. So a lot of the time, the returners are not going to do anything with it. So it's a way to press your luck with getting a good roll and letting the ball go run downfield.
And when the kicker's doing that, is he changing the drop point where his foot's going to meet the ball, or is he just not following through as much? Or
no, same thing with everything. You want to have your drop point the same height, your belly button height. Now, if you were planning on doing a line drive about 15 yards in the air, I would lower, you know how we talked about our nose being at 11 o'clock? I would lower our nose a little bit. Therefore, you're going to hit a little bit of the back of the ball, and you're going to have more of a forward roll with it.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
But when I mean lower the drop, I'm not saying lower the drop drastically like this. It's minimal. Minimal. I love it. Any more questions on the punting?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah.
I know it's not specific to the punting technique, but on a rugby punt, to the extent that you guys have done it, how do you handle, if you have a 3-man shield, how do you teach them? What do you teach them to do?
So when we have it's a really good question. So when we have a 3-man shield, we usually have 2 to the right, 1 to the left. When the snap goes back, they're all shuffling. All right? They're shuffling because we have our front line. They're still doing their normal protection. All right? But we have our 3-man shield, 2 right here, 1 right here. They're each shuffling to the right 3 seconds. And then by that time, the punt should be off. We're taught the shields are taught not to move back. You're always staying up, and if they're coming at you, you do 1 punch and you're out. 1 punch, out. Because again, right? We gotta get down there. We gotta get the punt off. We gotta get moving with it. That answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it, guys. This is great. So we'll move on to kickoffs. Again, any questions? Feel free. So this is something that I want to make crystal clear. If you're a high school coach, and I even do this with my guys, I can't tell my guys where to go. I can't say you're going to go 7 back, 3 to the left. Doesn't work like that. The kicker needs to be confident, consistent, and most importantly, comfortable with his steps. So you could figure that out. I'm going to tell you a way that they could figure out their steps. You put your tee down, and you're going to allow your kicker to go back to a spot that feels natural for them. All right? They can do a couple dry kicks as, you know, their approach to the ball. They're a couple dry kicks, and they're going to find a place that feels natural. Now, the first time they go back, they might say, yeah, this isn't working. Maybe take a few steps back, maybe go to the left. You're going to play around with it a little bit, but you want to find the natural way to kick, okay? Now, there's a few guidelines with that. The kicker's approach should be anywhere from 7 to 9 steps to the ball, all right? For when I kicked off, mine was always 7 back, 4 over. It's just what I felt comfortable with. But when your kicker finds the spot where they feel comfortable with, take a piece of tape, mark it off behind them, and then allow them to go to the tee, take their steps back, take their steps over, and there they find their steps. 3 things. They have to be confident with them, comfortable, and it needs to be consistent. All right? Now we'll talk about the approach. If you watch college, NFL, the kickoff guy is never going to sprint to the ball right away. It's a buildup. All right? First few steps are a walk, then a jog, and then a very explosive movement the last couple steps. Now, I'm going to go over something that I see in a lot of high school kickers when we're watching film and when we're recruiting. We always see the gate open. Now I'm going to explain what the gate means. In the last couple steps, a lot of high school kickers, and we have it sometime in college too, they point. So if I'm going to take a kickoff right here and I'm going to go hit the ball 60, 70 yards down here, you want to try to get all your momentum, your whole body into it. Now, what I see a lot of guys do is they open their chest, they open their hips, and they try to close up really fast to try to get all that power. That's a no-go. And the reason why that's a no-go is because a lot of these guys don't have the fast twitch muscles for their leg to catch up with that. So what's going to happen is they're going to hit the outside panel of the ball, and the ball is going to go all the way to the left. All right? You want to stay square to your target the whole time. All right? We don't want to open the gate. So our contact point is going to be using the instep of the kicking foot. When we go over field goals, I'll actually show you a diagram of where that is on the foot. With our tee, all right, our plant foot is essential to the success of our kickoff. All right, if you're using a 2-inch tee, 1-inch tee, your middle of your plant foot should be equal to the tee. So if you guys see right here, it's equal. You're always 1 foot away. You're 1 foot away, 12 inches away. If the tee is right here and my plant foot's right here, my hip's not gonna be able to get through the ball. All right? Now the other way is that if I'm too far forward, or too far back, excuse me, with my plant foot right here, I'm gonna get under the ball, I'm gonna pop it up, I'm gonna have no power. So you want your middle of your plant foot to be equal to the kicking tee. We already talked about our hips, and if we leave them open. So no, we didn't talk about that. We talked about the swinging gait. Now our hips, if we leave them open and don't close up right before the kick, right? If we leave them open to the right, ball's going to go to the right. We want to stay close to the target the whole time. Our follow through here. So same thing like we talked about with shooting a basketball or hitting a baseball. When you make contact, you can't just stop. We're trying to kick this ball, 55 to 65 to 70 yards down the field. All right, it's a very explosive play. So we talk about a hurdle. So right underneath here, if you guys can see this right here, I always talk about having a hurdle right here. We want our kicker's leg to go up and over the hurdle. That's going to ensure their follow through down the field. All right. Now, something that I'm going to mention multiple times here. When you kick off and follow through, you always land on your kicking foot. Kickoffs equals kicking foot when you land. When you're taking a field goal and you're kicking a field goal, you're landing on your plant foot. You're skipping through, but you're landing on the plant foot. Kickoffs equals you're landing on the kicking foot. All right? Going over the hurdle is extremely important to be able to continue our momentum going forward. So putting it all together, we talked about being consistent, comfortable, and confident with our steps. We talked about our plant foot being away from 1 foot away from the tee, and we talked about being halfway, splitting our foot and being halfway to ensure a really good kick. With kickers, we can't crunch. When you make contact with the ball and you're going up to it, chest is up. All right, chest is not down. We're not gonna be able to get our leg through the ball. All right, chest up, arm out, and I'll show you a video of that in a second. So I talked about our freshman punter. He was also our kickoff guy this year. Struggled a little bit, and that was based on his steps. We couldn't get his plant foot. We're working on that, but he has a really good future ahead of him. So as you can see right here, it's a build up. So as you can see, I paused it right here. I want that arm out a little more, this left arm out. I like how his chest is up. He's exposing the sweet spot of his foot. You notice right back here, if you guys could see, his plant foot is a little far back. All right, so we want to move it up a little bit to be able to go through the ball. And we're still working on the hurdle with him going down the field. As you see, the foot kind of comes right down. We're still working on that.
Is the plant foot equal with the ball or a little bit in front of it?
Equal. Yep. You want it. So if So my example right here, if your foot is two in front of it, your hip's not going to be able to go through the ball. All right. Now it'll change when we go over field goal and different tee sizes. That's when they'll change. But right now you want to be right in the middle of it. All right. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So that was a little better. All right. I still want that arm up a little bit, but he's able to go through. And watch the hurdle right here. We still want to, I want to say, I want my guys to go 1 to 1.5 yards down the field with that right foot before it lands. All right. See it in full. It's an explosive play, guys. It's one of the most explosive plays in college football or in football in general. All right. But the main points I want you guys to get from that is chest and hips to the target. We can't be opening up and swinging forward at the last second. That's when it's going to go all off. Is there any questions on the kickoffs, guys, that I can go over to clarify anything?
Yeah, Coach has one about onside kicks. I was going to ask the same thing. What do you like for onsides?
Yep. So what I have my guys do is I have them take their field goal steps. All right. And we'll go over field goal steps in a second. But it depends on which way you want to go. I have them take their field goal steps and I have them approach it like a field goal. Now you want to aim for the top panel of the ball and you're coming down on it. All right. They're coming down on it. You're still hitting it hard. You can't baby it, right? But you're hitting it hard and you're hitting it into the ground. I always have them aim to the numbers to ensure that it goes 10 yards. And if you hit it down enough, you're going to get that hop right before it goes up. So you go your field goal steps, unless you're talking about a surprise onside, which obviously is different. But if you're talking about a regular onside, you take your field goal steps, and you're hitting the top panel of the ball, and you're coming down on it. You don't want to go through the ball. If you go through the ball, you're going to hit it too hard. It might go out of bounds. It's not that you don't want to do that. You want to go down on the ball. Does that answer your question?
That's good, Coach. Thanks.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll move on to field goals. Like I talked to you guys about before, I'm going to show a diagram of where you want to hit the ball. This is our instep of our foot. It's the hardest part of your foot, and it's the place where you want to make the most where you want to make ball contact. Here's the behind view. Here's in front. Notice how you have your toe pointed out. All right, that's going to expose the sweet spot of your foot. Now we'll go into plant foot. Plant foot is one of the most essential points of kicking a field goal. All right. I'm going to talk about a 2-inch tee, which people use in high school, and I'm going to talk about going off the ground. So with a 2-inch tee, it's going to be the same thing that we do with our kickoffs. Our plant foot still going to be 1 foot away, 12 inches, but we want it to be in the middle again. All right. So the middle of your plant foot should be even with the ball. Now, if you're kicking off the ground, your plant foot should be a little bit in front of the ball. So your heel should be equal to where the spot of the ball is. Now, there are some good reasons to use a tee, a block, commonly referred to. In high school, it does add height and distance to your kick, but it will make the transition a lot harder to kicking off the ground. I kicked with a 2-inch tee in high school, and it was great, but going off the ground, it's a little harder because you have to point your toe a little more, and it exposes the sweet spot of the ball, of your foot, excuse me. Obviously, incorrect placement of the plant foot is going to affect the kick in multiple different ways. And I'll show you guys a little later when we go over our film review what I mean by that. So your upper body, let's see if I can move myself right here. Okay, your upper body, you want it to be right up and down. We don't want to crunch like we talked about earlier. Notice how Kenny right here, his arm is coming through because that's what he's going to do when he makes contact with the ball. But something that I want to explain to you guys is something called lateral lean. When you see kickers go to kick the ball, they have their left arm out. That's not just for show, all right? I want to lean a little bit to my left. It's a little bit. It's this, guys, right here, because that's going to expose the sweet spot of our foot a little more, all right? So lateral lean a little bit. Now, when you have your arm out and you're coming through, notice how Kenny right here, he's coming right here. That's what we want to do when we kick. What I see a lot of what a lot of high school kickers do is they do the windshield wiper action, which is when they come out here and they come down and they come out. Notice how I had to come over here to be able to come down and out. We want to stay out here so it exposes the sweet spot of our foot, and we want to come right across. So the follow through we talked about with kickoff. When we follow through on our kicking leg, and we land on our kicking foot. With field goals, we skip through, and we always land on our plant foot. Skipping through will provide power to the kick, but will also help you stay aligned, your hips, your chest, your head, aligned to the upright. So finding your steps, like we talked about before, there's no scientific way to find your steps. I can't tell my kicker, go 3 back, 2 over, go 2 back, 2 to the side. If it's not comfortable for them, they're not going to be successful when they go out in the game. But the most common way is 3 back and 2 over. But I would suggest if you have a kicker that's just starting out and maybe they're not too comfortable with their steps, have them start out naturally. They don't have to take steps to the ball. All right? Now, normally, your approach to the ball is going to be a jab, 1, 2. Jab, 1, 2. And I'll explain that and I'll show that in the video diagram. All right? This is my little diagram that I drew out right here. When you take your steps back, you always have to take a 90-degree angle over to the left, no matter where you are on the field. All right? What you could do is you could even, with your feet, when your kicker goes back, they can make a 90-degree angle with their foot to ensure they step straight. But we want to be as consistent every time as we possibly can. So putting it all together, kicking is mental, right? We want to visualize ourselves out on the field. We want to visualize the snap coming. We want to visualize the hold. We want to visualize the ball going through the upright, practicing good mechanics, right? I always have our guys, whether it's the off season, like I talked about, before they go to bed, visualizing themselves out on the field, performing the certain motion and seeing the ball going through the uprights. Like I referred to earlier in the clinic, a kicker can't kick all practice. Punters can't punt all practice. Same thing, like I said, with MLB pitchers, right? Best thing a kicker could do is work on dry kicking. That's not having the ball there, but they could take their 3 steps back, 2 to the left, visualize the upright right there, and they can go through their motion, right? They don't have to kick the ball there, but they could practice their steps and they could practice their approach. Consistency is key. It doesn't matter if you're taking a 50-yard field goal or a PAT. You have to approach the ball the same way. If you guys are into golfing, right? If you're going out for a long drive, you can't hit the ball any harder. You can't. Same thing with football. It's all so technological and so mechanics-based, right? So it doesn't matter if you're going out for a PAT or a 50-yard field goal, you have to practice the same mechanics every time. So some warm-up drills that you could do. Some dry kicks, that's what we talked about before, going off to the side, taking your 3 back, 2 over, wherever the steps are. And then approaching the ball, but not kicking the ball, but you're swinging your leg. The no step drill, that's really good for ball contact and focusing on skipping through. We're going to start with our plant foot next to the ball. We're going to have our ball on our block or on the ground. We're going to have our tripod or a holder holding it, right? We're going to have our arm out. We're going to have our lateral lean. We're going to have our foot right next to the ball. And we're going to work on making contact with the ball. Now, what a lot of high school kickers do and beginning kickers, when they make contact with the ball, you're going to see them fall back, right? We're going to have their chest over the ball. When we make contact, we want to go through, skip through. Now, when you hit a no step, I'm not expecting anyone to hit a 30-yard field goal, 40-yard field goal, even a PAT. Maybe you should go hip height, at chest height, maybe 5-10 yards. It's all about ball contact. One-step drills, we're breaking down our kicking motion, and it's going to be our last step to the ball. So a way that you can find the one-step drill is taking one step back, one step over, and you're simulating your last step. So you're going to have to start with your right foot in front, and then you're gonna go to the ball. You're going to have your left arm extended, right? You're going to plant. You're going to make contact with the ball, and you're going to skip through. All right, it's really good for working on the follow-through. The corner post drill and the small angle drill are very similar. Corner post drill is you're lined up in the back of the end zone. You're lining up directly with the upright. And you're trying to hit it. Works on accuracy. We want to miss small. And the small angle drill is more drastic. If you go out to the numbers, you're maybe on the 2 to 3 yard line, and you're trying to aim through the uprights. All right, working on aiming and missing small. Right, we want to aim at small targets. All right, therefore, when we go into the game, it's a big target. All right, that's why kicking at light posts are really good. You're trying to aim at those. All right, because then when you go out there in the game, practice, uprights seem huge. So here we have our. So I'm going to go over the jab 1-2 here. All right, and we'll use Kenny as our model right here. So when we talk about our jab, it's a quick left foot step right there to get our body weight going. All right, notice how Kenny's not leaned over with the ball. All right, his chest is up, his arms are on either side, head looking at the ball, but it's not a big step by any means. We have our second step. All right, notice how his left hand is in the process of coming out, right? And then the last step, let's see if I can do this right here. Last step is all coming together. Arm is coming out. Plant foot is going to be right there. Right arm is off to the side. He's about to go right through the ball. See it again. So we have I'm going to say it. We have our jab, 1-2. Skipping through the ball. Now, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's a PAT, 50-yard field goal. You're going to see the same mechanics every single time. Jab, 1-2. Right through. Now, this is one of our younger kickers, and I'm going to kind of show you guys what we're working on with him so you guys can see a visual of it. Right when the ball is snapped, right, he's looking at his fingers. When those fingers come off the ground, that's a signal for him to go. All right, but when he starts going, you're going to see his chest come right down and his head come down. All right, we want to stay up and we want to stay right to the target the whole time. All right, let's break this down. So notice, let's see. This is what I'm talking about. Notice with Kenny, he was more upright. All right, we're coming down here. I don't want all your body weight and coming down here because you're just going to have to come right back up. All right, we want to stay extremely simple with our motions. Stay up with it. Notice how his left arm is over here, right? He's coming here because remember I talked about the closing of the gate. He's going to try swinging his hips. Now, lucky he's going to make this kick because he has tremendous hip and leg speed, but we want to stay simple with it. We want to stay open, all right? We can't come over and cut ourselves off already. Notice how his hips are already facing the scoreboard. Right here. Toe up, we want our toe pointed out, right? Notice how his plant foot, right here, is facing the trees over here. We want our plant foot to be facing right to the upright. Hips are facing over here. Chest is down. We want our chest up and pointed to the uprights. Now, like I said, he has good leg speed, so he's able to hit it. Now, guys, I know that's so much information, but does anyone have any questions that I can go in more, deeper with this? All right. I know it's an information overload. All right. I'm trying to break it down the best way possible for you guys to understand. Now we'll go over long snapping. This is our long snapper right here. I will say he's a little bigger than normal long snapper. He's about 6'3", 230. So he's a little bigger than a normal long snapper. But you're gonna hold the ball the normal way that you hold the ball right here with your dominant hand. Your non-dominant hand is going to be on the back of the ball. All right. When you're shooting a basketball, when you have your left hand right on the side, we're not gripping the ball, right? It's a guide hand. Same thing with long snapping. You just want to guide the ball with that hand. Notice how his middle finger is on the seam of the ball. All right, that's going to give you good control. So some long snapping drills, we always warm up with some wrist circles. We have to have really good wrist flexibility. Dry snaps are the same thing as dry kicking, dry punting. All right, so without a ball, but you're simulating the motion. All right, that's something that long snappers can do all day at practice. Doesn't take much. We want to play pass. Something that's important with long snappers is playing pass with both hands. All right, you're using both hands, so we're going to play pass with both hands. Fast pitch throws. All right, we got to get our shoulders warmed up. We have them about 10, 12 yards away, and they're throwing it at each other. Both hands, and we're throwing it. We got to get warmed up. All right, two-hand overhead pass. We're going to have our right hand on the laces, left hand on the bottom. We're going to go up, and we're going to follow through over. All right, pointed right to our partner's chest. This is all a progression to our 7-yard snap, and we're going to move it back to our 14-yard snap. Like I said, he's a little bigger, so he has.
Coach,
yeah.
Sorry, Coach. I don't understand the fast pitch throw in that sequence.
Yep. So what we do is we have them playing pass to warm up, right? But when you're doing a long snap, it's pretty violent motion. We're moving back pretty fast. So what I have them do is I have them warm up their shoulders even more and have them utilize their hips, and we're kind of throwing the ball at each other. All right. Now, obviously, we're not just throwing darts at each other, right? But I want to stimulate the motion, all right? And we're using both arms.
Yeah. Are they throwing right-handed, and then are they throwing left-handed, or are they just using both hands if they're right-handed throwing?
So both hands. So if I'm right-handed, I'm going to throw right. I'm going to catch the ball back. I'm going to throw left.
Got it.
Yep. And then after that, after the fast pitch throws, then we go into two-handed.
Right.
Yep. So it's all a progression going up to the long snap. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for the question. So our long snapping form. So feet straight, outside shoulder width. Now, some coaches teach that you have one foot in front of the other. I want them to be even. All right. I want to simplify everything for my guys. I want everything to make sense for them. So we're gonna have feet shoulder width apart, weight evenly distributed. We want our hips back. Long snapping is a lot of all hips. All right. It's hips, glutes, and explosive leg motions. And I'm going to show you guys that when we go through our video in a little bit. But we want our back flat and our hips back and our arms extended forward. Right? When I grab the ball to start, now Bryce right here, he's in the middle of his snap. So his arms are a little bent. But when we start, I don't want to start with bent arms. I want to start with straight arms. Not locked out, but relatively straight. So we want to use the momentum to snap back. I'm going to show you this in the video, but this is something that's extremely important that you guys can bring back to your long snappers. So your feet should slide back 3 to 5 inches. All right, and that's where you're going to get all your explosion. That's how the snap's going to come back fast. All right, we want to keep our heads still. We want to release the ball at our feet. We don't want to release it too far because then it's going to go up high. And then we want to follow through with our arms extended. Now this is something that you want to take back to your long snappers. Pinkies to the ground, thumbs to the sky. You can have them practice with their dry snaps, holding that position. So let's see. Let's go here. So you guys can see. Now, this first time through watching the video, this is Bryce right here. This is our long snapper. I just want you to watch his feet. It's going to happen fast, so I might show it a couple times, but you'll see how far back his feet go. And that's all through his hips. We're exploding back. right there. So let's do it again. Can you guys see that? It's an explosive motion with your feet coming back. Now in our scheme, our punter gets a free release down the field, so he doesn't have to worry about blocking. His first job is getting the snap back there, having a successful snap, and then running down the field. I think this year was a record-breaking year for Bryce. I think he got 3 tackles, which was huge for us, absolutely huge for us. Let's see one more time. Notice how his back is flat. He's going to explode back. Now I want to show you guys a short snap too. Obviously with a short snap, our feet aren't exploding back. All right. Our hands are coming back, but our feet aren't exploding. Our feet are cemented into the ground. Now the first thing I want you guys to watch is Bryce, when after he snaps, he throws the bows. He's protecting the A gap. So you're going to see once he snaps the ball, his arms are going to come out right here. And his job is to protect the A-gap along with the other guards. So we'll just watch his protection right here. So if you see right here, this is one arm. This is another arm right here. Notice how the A-gap is secure. And obviously they can't line him up and blow him up right here, but they can come right through the A-gap. Now we'll see the snap real fast. He's aiming for right here. And we'll talk about holding next, but if he misses, he wants to miss to the holder's numbers. Does anyone have any questions on long snapping? All right, so we'll move on to holding. This is one of my favorite parts. So with holding, the position of the holder is you want to have your right knee down, your left knee up. Now, what a lot of high school coaches do is they tell the holder to have their right knee up and their left knee down. The reason why we don't want to do that is because if it's a bad snap and the holder has to go open up here, he would have to move his arms up and over his leg to catch the ball and then bring it around back. If you have your right leg down, the holder's chest is open. So if it's a bad snap, all he has to do is catch it, bring it right down. Now, you see this position right here. I would even want Derek a little more open so he could sit back and open his chest up right here to make it easier on himself. So the left hand is always pointed at the ground, and that's going to be the spot. That's the kicker's spot. They've pointed out that spot. So if it's a block, obviously the holder knows where it is. But when you're kicking off the ground, that's going to be the spot that the kicker picked out. Right arm is open, or right hand is open to the long snapper. Our cadence for our lineman is down, and then our holder will look back at our kicker after he yells down to make sure that he's ready to go. Kicker will normally give a nod, and then the next cadence will be ready. And then with us, it's on the long snapper to snap the ball. So as you see right here, I got some cool pictures. This talks about the catch. The holder will catch the ball with 2 hands, and then we'll place it down on the ground. The holder's job is to catch it and place it. Now the next part is spinning. You want to spin the ball with your right hand. The reason why we want to do it with the right hand is because it's in front of the ball. We don't want our kicker to see us spinning the ball. All right? We don't want to see our kicker to have a hand when they're approaching the ball to kick. All right? So we want to hold the ball with our left hand, and what a lot of coaches preach is we pinch the ball. All right? That's going to give us a good grip on the ball, but it's also going to be light and not affect the kick. Now, if we're pressing down on the ball, it's going to affect the kick. All right? So we pinch, we spin with our right hand, and then we'll release our right hand and the kick will happen. Now, what I want to talk to you guys real fast about is something very technical, but it's tilting the ball. So as a holder, we never want to tilt the ball away from us. You never want to tilt the ball away from you. All right? The reason why that is because that's going to decrease the sweet spot of the ball. If anything, you want to angle the ball to you a little bit and then forward a little bit. a lot of kickers like to lean the ball back, but you're actually decreasing the sweet spot of the ball when you lean the ball back. A little bit towards you and a little bit forward is going to open up the sweet spot of the ball. So here we go. Now, Kenny and Derek, they've worked together for a couple years, so you'll see his left hand come up right here. But he knows where to put the ball down. So now he gives the cadence. Let's see this real fast. Gives the cadence for the down. That's for the lineman. Now he's going to look back at Kenny to see if he's ready to go. Kenny will give him a nod. Snap will come. And we'll go. Now we'll see the behind view real fast. Now, the video is not great for a lot of reasons, but you can see exactly the holder here, which is really good. That's what we want to look at right here. So you'll see, let's see this very beginning. Right here is where Kenny picked out. That's where he's expecting the ball. So that's where Derek's going to put the ball down right here. He's ready. He already gave the down cadence to the offensive lineman. He's now going to give the ready cadence for Bryce. Notice when if you guys can see, the laces are pointed right over to their home sidelines. All right. Derek's going to spin the ball. He's not going to take his hand off the ball at all before. He's going to leave that thing on the whole time. Head's going to be down to ensure that everything goes properly. Spin. And it's perfect. And then Coach Lynch was on a couple of weeks ago. This was Halloween, so I don't know what he was dressed up as, but he was dressed up. So that's really it, guys. I'm gonna stop my screen share. But does anyone have any questions? I really want this to be really beneficial for you guys.
Coach Roscoe asks how the onside surprise technique is different than a regular onside.
So the surprise, what you're going to have your guys do is you're going to have your kicker do is you're going to have them take his normal steps back, right? Now you're going to approach it the same way. Now you're going to have to practice this to get him out, but you're going to approach it the same way, but you're really going to try, the plant foot's the same. Everything's really the same, except you're hitting the top half of the ball, and this is where practice and technique comes in. You're hitting the top half of the ball, right? And then you're going to try to beat the ball 10 yards. So your goal is to already be there or meet the ball there. You're not trying to out-kick yourself. Does that make sense? So that would be the surprise. And we've had that in a couple times this year, the surprise. But then that would differ from the regular one where we're having them do our field goal steps and drilling the ball into the ground. All right? With the surprise, you're not drilling the ball. It's more of a touch. But you're not hitting the middle of the ball. You're still hitting the top. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So more questions? I want to be able to help you guys in any way, and I really hope this was beneficial.
I got a few for you, Coach.
Yeah.
The rugby style punt. Are you typically, if a team is a rugby punting team, are they typically all or nothing?
No.
They're not. Okay.
Nope. So it'll depend. It'll also depend. So for us, for example, right? We're not a rugby style team. Now, if we had 8 men outside the long snapper to one certain side, we're doing a check to rugby. So we have that. That's on our shield to make that call. Okay. So that's a shield call, and everyone will know that we're going to check to rugby. So it's based on the look that we get. A lot of teams that we play, for example, like William and Mary and Richmond, they have both. It'll depend. In college football, sometimes it's different punters. But usually, I'm a big fan of rugby style punting. If I'm a high school coach, I really look into rugby style punting because it's crazy bounces, right? Like you don't know where the thing's going. It's good for you protection-wise because you don't have a solid block spot too that a team can attack. Everything's up in the air.
Thank you. My next question is, you said you didn't have your kickers kick every day. Mm-hmm. What days do you kick? And the second part of that question is, on the days that they don't kick, mm-hmm. what typically are they doing in practice?
So that's where I come in. Yeah, that's fun. So Mondays are our NCAA day off. That's what we do. We have our day off. So no one's doing anything on that day. Tuesday is a punt day and a field goal day. All right. So if they're a kickoff, right? Say we have our kickoff guy, which our kickoff guy was a punter, so he wasn't doing kickoffs on that day. But normally, what I have them do is I have them do dry steps. I always have them kick a little bit, whether that's doing no steps, 1 steps, and really limiting the amount that they kick. So I would have them kick personally. I would have them kick 2 to 3 times a week, scripted practice. So that's when they're moving back, 20 right hash, 25 middle, 30 right hash. I would have 2 to 3 times a week. But when they're not kicking, it's at the beginning of practice when they do their no steps, their 1 steps. What I have them do is when they're off to the side, maybe at the end of practice, I have them do snap, hold, and then they'll go through their kicking motion. They're not going to kick. But it's all about getting everyone on the same page, whether or not you're doing, if you can get your long snapper and holder and say you don't want your kicker to kick, it's still very beneficial to go through the snap, hold, kick to get your kicker and the whole team confident in the ability to make the kick. So.
And you guys typically play on Saturdays, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So what we'll do is so for our field goal kicker, for example, he'll kick Tuesday, Thursday, Friday a little bit, but that's it.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We also have bands. We also do hip mobility on the side. I mean, I don't think I didn't go over this. Stretching is one of the most important things a specialist can do. I do this. If I ever see one of my specialists on a couch, there's something wrong. If you're watching TV at night, you're on the ground stretching. You're always stretching. That's the key. That's the key to punting. I talk about the quick twitch muscles. That's how you're going to get it right there is stretching, right? I also have my guys. Coach Lynch is amazing, but we're not loading the bar, 400, 450 on our back. We're trying to work our fast twitch muscles because when you punt the ball, when you kick the ball, it's an explosive motion. So we have to train fast so we can kick fast.
Cool. My last question to you would be, last year my team here did a pretty good job punting, snapping, holding. What we did, however, struggle on was kickoffs. Mm-hmm. And last year was my first year coach, so I just got to know the guys, last year for the first time. I hadn't really spent a lot of time with them. What's the best way to kind of develop a kicker from a kickoff standpoint? Is that something that has to happen at like a really early age? Is it something that you can develop a guy once he gets into high school? How much stuff should they be doing on a yearly basis? All that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. Myself, I'll just go I'll give you a little bit of history of me. I kicked at a young age, but then I stopped playing football. I stopped playing football when I was in 6th grade, and I didn't continue until I was a sophomore in high school. So I came back to it, right? I did have the knowledge prior, but it doesn't matter whether it's the first time going out there kicking when you're a junior or senior in high school or you're starting young, right? Comfortable and being consistent with your steps is going to help your kicker the most, right? Also, with kicking, everyone's watching, right? So supporting your kicker and helping your kicker along the path is going to do wonders for his mental psyche. But no, I would say stretching, working on ball contact is extremely important, and you don't have to kick the ball 50 times to work on ball contact too. And then finding your steps, right? And what I would preach to everyone here is that I know when you're a kicker, you're trying to find the competitive edge, right? You're trying to find what works best for you to get yourself over. A lot of kickers, you'll see them when they're approaching, they're going to open up to try to explode, right? Really work on having your kicker be closed the entire time, hips and chest to the target, We want to simplify everything. I don't want it to be very complicated, because when they go out in the game, I don't want them thinking about anything. I want it to all be, just in their head. They know exactly what they have to do. Take a deep breath and do their thing. Every time they go out to kick, punt, long snap, you tell them to take a deep breath and just be natural with it. If they're natural with it, they're going to be successful the majority of the time.
Awesome.
I hope that wasn't a ramble for you.
No, that was awesome. No, it was really good. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Anybody else? Questions for Coach?
I was going to say, Coach Goff,
Yes, sir.
at the end of the school year, as soon as the hands-off period is over with spring sports, I know this year is different, but we actually have a practice, like the day school ends, or maybe even during finals if it doesn't conflict with the exams and stuff. And the first day that we go out there for an hour plus, we have everybody kick, punt, long snap, whatever. Sometimes you find a kid that the kid doesn't even know he can do it, and each coach takes, I take the punter, somebody else takes the snappers, whatever. And I have them write down, the top 8 or 10 kids, whatever, that have potential. Some of them, the technique's horrible, whatever, but you can tell if that kid has a good leg or whatever. And then when we start preseason, those kids will line up, and during specialty period, they go there, and then we just cut them until we get down to a workable number. So,
Identify early.
yeah.
Nice.
And I would echo that. If they have time in the summer and the off season, they don't have to kick a lot. They have to do the drills, the no steps, the 1 steps, the stretching. That's what's going to put you in a position to be successful when you go out to practice, is doing the drills. It really is. So I really hope that was beneficial for you guys.
I'm going to sign off. Sam, great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. Hey, one thing I'd like to do whenever we can get back at it is maybe film my guys kicking and punting and send it to you.
Yeah, anytime you want. Like I'm here for everyone. Like I really believe that, like, I'm just trying to be here to help everyone, be successful with everything. And it's hard to find a kicking coach that you can rely on and trust. And, you got to keep it simple, but it's so technological, right? It's so mechanics driven. Same thing with golfing, right? I'm not a big golfer, but I mean, if I go out there and I'm trying to drill a ball, it's just not going to work, right? Same thing with kicking. It's all
well, my rugby punter is in the upstairs of my house, so I might be sending you a video soon.
There you go. Hey, I'm open for it. Let me know.
All right, man. Appreciate you, Coach.
All right, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.